there's really two things left. And these two things are somewhat optional. I'm going to go with this one first. This is the airspeed sensor. So ArduPilot, in their wiki and the documentation, they strongly recommend putting an airspeed sensor in a plane. In my experience, I'm going to say that's maybe a little dated information. The technology in ArduPilot, the software, the intelligence, the incredible logic, the mathematical applications that are built into the software, the open source software that's inside ArduPilot, are unbelievable. There's some incredibly smart people that are doing some amazing things to make the plane able to do an awful lot of things that would just amaze you. And one of the things that this ArduPilot can do is basically estimate things like wind speed, and therefore the true airspeed of the plane when flying through the air, based on performance through measurements. It has a number of sensors in the flight controller, it's got the GPS, and it's got the software, and it can do, you know, I've flown planes without an airspeed sensor, more or less, with not a problem. Now, there are some applications where you really need an airspeed sensor because you need to be very precise and very sure about the airspeed, because as you probably know, it's the speed of the wind over the wings that gives you your lift and helps the plane to do everything that it does. Well, if you have an airspeed sensor, you can get that very precise control. And so here we have, this is a Qio-Tek ASP5033, a little bit dated technology, and this is an I2C airspeed sensor. It's not CAN based. I2C is also a good non-UART communication technology that's supported by most Pixel style or ArduPilot flight controllers. In some respects, I'm using this because that's what I have. I would probably use a CAN airspeed sensor if I had a spare, but I don't happen to have one, and I have this. So the reason why I want to put an airspeed sensor in here is because I'm hoping to do some aerobatics with this plane. So you'll see some interesting things coming up. I mean, take a quick look at this. So what that was a simulator. I ran real flight and I simulated this plane, and just doing some simple aerobatics, and that was all controlled by the flight controller, by ArduPilot in the simulator. So if all goes well, I'll get to do that out with this plane for real, and that's why I think it'll be a smart idea to have an airspeed sensor in the plane. So what I will do when I mount this airspeed sensor in the plane is I'm actually going to mount one of the things that has to happen with an airspeed sensor is it needs to go a long way from the prop wash of the propeller. And so what I want to do is I'm going to mount that out in the wing. So basically this is how this connector will go. This connector will go into the flight controller that will basically go in here. That will basically go down in the plane, and then this long wire will bring the airspeed sensor right out to the wing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the pitot tube for the airspeed sensor inside the wheel pants. So that's going to basically protrude out the front of the wheel pant on the wing. That'll be a long way away from anywhere being near close to the propeller. So basically that will connect, the pitot tube will connect to these silicon wires that'll connect to the airspeed sensor. The wire will run along here, and that will go into the inside of the plane. So let's quickly disconnect power again. And we're going to connect this airspeed sensor through this. Basically, it's a switch, a hub for connecting multiple devices to the same I2C or CAN device. But I'm in fact going to use it so that I can run a cable down from the top of the plane to the bottom of the plane, and then make it easy to disconnect the airspeed sensor in the wing if I need to remove the wings. So that kind of solves two problems in one. So what I'll do is I'll connect this 4-pin JSTGH connector and connect it to this I2C connector here on the flight controller, and that will then go to simulated to out on the wing, and that will be connected to the pitot tube. We'll just leave that out there disconnected for now. And what we'll do, we'll connect up again, power it on. We can see that we have power on the airspeed sensor coming from the I2C. It's also connected through here through the hub. And what we also need to do is connect Mission Planner, and straight away on Mission Planner. So we have airspeed. And the way we can tell that we have airspeed is if I blow, you can see the number go up because the air is speeding down the tube, goes up on the airspeed sensor. Bob's your uncle. It really was as easy as that to connect the airspeed sensor. Yeah, so that's the airspeed sensor. The last thing we're going to do in this wiring connection is to connect the camera. Now my idea that I have on the camera is two things about the camera. One is I need to get it a long way from the other electronics because they tend to interfere with each other. And the second thing is that I want to get the camera, if you remember, I'm planning to put the canopy on the front of the plane like this with the GPS here. Now if I put the camera here, the camera's going to get blocked by that. But what I have here, interestingly, is a little stand that came with one of my other flight controllers for mounting a GPS, usually on a quadcopter or drone. I prefer to just say when the flight controller comes on, the camera comes on, and the camera starts recording. Sure, I get a few extra minutes of video that I don't really need, and I can just delete that. Much better than me forgetting to press the button or flip the switch and not getting video of an awesome flight, which used to happen. So I don't do that anymore. What I do is I power on the flight controller, the camera comes on and starts recording the video that will come on and record from here. And I'll mount that on the top of the plane on this little antenna thingy here, and looking over the top of the canopy and then over the top of the propeller, but also should have a view of the wings as well. So that, everyone, is everything that we're going to be doing with this Gee Bee Sportster E, powered by the Qio-Tek Zealot H743 flight controller running ArduPilot. It all works. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put all of this into the plane. I'm not going to video that. I'll show you that when it's done. Basically finish setting up the plane. It's coming together a lot faster than I thought, so you know, it may just be a couple more weeks before this plane is ready to fly, which will be a lot of fun. Very, very interesting. I will add that in order to get some of these things to work, yes, it did require some ArduPilot parameters to be configured in Mission Planner or Q-Ground Control. The parameters are in here. The software is just what's used to set it up. So I will put some of the key parameters in the description for this video, but I'll more importantly put links to other videos where I actually go through the details of setting up those parameters and later on, when I actually have this plane like fully configured and ready to go, I'm actually going to do a ArduPilot parameter basic setup video that just runs through the basics that you need to get a plane like this in the air running ArduPilot. So stay tuned for that. If you like the video, if you liked some of the video, if you even watched bits of it, please like, please subscribe. There will be, you know, as you've seen with this channel, I do a bunch of different things. There's basic build stuff, like I did with the tail wheel on the previous video. There's complex electronics, there's ArduPilot, and there's flying. I will be flying and I'll have some interesting videos. So if you subscribe, you'll get notified when some of that interesting content pops up online. So there we have it. That's my Qio-Tek Zealot H743, ready to roll, ready to be installed in the beautiful, I really like this model, the beautiful Maxford, USA Gee Bee Sportster E. Tim the Plane Man, over and out.